My name is Amanda Mountain. I am living in Detroit, Michigan, where I am the director of Motown Mission. I grew up in the suburb of Atlanta, in Roswell, Georgia, and I grew up with my mom, my dad, and my sister. And I grew up in a very Methodist family. My parents met in youth group, and I grew up attending my local Methodist church. I also grew up in the dance studio, training to be a professional ballet dancer. So when I was 14, I went away to boarding school to study dance here at Interlochen Arts Academy in Michigan. And during that time, I still attended Methodist church, but I was really focused on dance. And it's interesting, I never really felt like dance was where I was called to be in my life. It was something I kind of happened to do well, and people would say, you should do it, it's a God-given gift, but I always kind of felt called to something else. So it's, no wonder that I ended up in seminary. My parents, like I said, met in youth group, and generations back, I have pastors in the Evangelical and Church of the Brethren branches of Methodism. So it's just kind of in my blood. I'm definitely a Methodist, born and bred. I was a student at Candler School of Theology, Emory University. I believe it was my first year, and I was kind of interviewing around to see what my contextual education placement would be for my second year. And so I met with Reverend Dr. Susan Henry Crow, who at the time was the Dean of Religious Life there at Emory University, and was just talking about my kind of vocational discernment and my calling. And I kind of knew I didn't want to go into ordained ministry, but I wanted to be in service to the Methodist Church somehow. She said, well, check out the Deaconesses. And I was like, what are those? So she gave me the website. And so I looked at the website and saw that there was a discernment event coming up. So I applied to attend that, flew to New York, attended a discernment event, learned about the Deaconess movement and the more of the history of it, and really connected with the stories and the work of my Deaconess sisters who had come before me, and was really just said, I don't know, sometimes things click and you're like, this is what I need to do, this is my calling. I don't know what kind of work I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna apply and see what happens. And at the time I remember I went to lunch there in New York City with Becky Lauder, who at that time was the executive for the Deaconess office. And we talked, and she was like, I think you would be a great addition to the community. So I applied and went through the process, and I was consecrated a deaconess at UMW Assembly in 2010 in St. Louis. So in my current ministry, I'm the director of Motown Mission here in Detroit, Michigan. And what we do is we host volunteer service teams from around the country for up to a week-long mission service experience here in Detroit. So we house them and feed them and provide programming and curriculum. And then we also create their entire schedule, so they don't volunteer teams come to us, and we have a partnership with about 15 other nonprofits providing a variety of services with the community of Detroit. And so we schedule our volunteer teams to serve with each of those nonprofits depending on their skill level and their interests. So they do anything from minor home repair to ministry with those experiencing homelessness, any community gardening, all sorts of fun stuff. So it's really fun. I think what inspired me to get involved in this work, I think growing up and as a student at boarding school, I didn't really have anyone walking with me in my kind of spiritual formation, vocational discernment. And I know I went to seminary with the intention of working with young people somehow. I didn't know what that would look like, but I felt like I had kind of a unique path and story that would help others and other young people kind of discern their future and figure out what their calling was and go into the world and do that calling. And I also I believe in the work of ministry with a community. So here in Detroit, there are a lot of economic disaster recovery work that needs to happen, especially after I think 2008. And so I really I appreciate connecting young people with mission and empowering them to get more involved in their local communities. So I hope that when they come to Detroit, they don't see this as just a week like mission trip and then go home and go about their lives. I want them to take what they've learned here through their service with the community and take that home into their home communities and see, okay, well, where are these similar issues coming up in my community and how can I help? And I want it hopefully to inform their future vocations. I started as the director of Motown Mission in June of 2019, and we were going along. We had a huge amount of volunteer teams registered, and finished out the summer strong, started hosting our fall break teams, and we're just plugging along and doing really well. And then COVID struck in March of 2020. All of our spring break teams canceled. We were only able to host 2 teams summer of 2020, and we usually host like 30 or something, like at least 600 volunteers a summer come through in the 8-week summer season that we have. And so really that's been a challenge to not only adjust our programs to adapt to like an online mission experience model, and also if teams did want to come in person, we couldn't house them or feed them safely. So what did that look like in our ministry? And so we've had to get creative. I really enjoy meeting the young people that come through our program and seeing how they change from day one till the end of the week. They grow not only just in their experience of like service and mission, but they grow in their confidence. Sometimes they come in, they've never held a hammer, and then they leave, they have helped put up drywall. Or we had a group this summer come in and build a porch for someone, which was just amazing. So they left thinking, I'm awesome, I built a porch. And so it's just really fun to see that change in them.